Chosen one. Heaven marked. These 72 hours for a reason. Chosen one. This is not a normal message. What is about to happen between May 27th, May 28th, and May 29th was already marked in the spiritual realm long before you clicked on this video. These are not ordinary days. Heaven has placed a spiritual spotlight on these 72 hours, and if you have been feeling restless, emotionally exhausted, spiritually attacked, or strangely disconnected lately, there is a reason for it. Something is shifting. 4 weeks, maybe even months. You have been carrying a weight you could not explain. You kept smiling while fighting silent battles nobody knew about. You kept praying while doors kept closing. You kept hoping while people walked away from you. And deep down, there were moments you questioned whether God still remembered your name. But chosen one, what if the delay was never punishment? What if the isolation was preparation? What if heaven intentionally pulled you away because these next 3 days were meant to change the direction of your life? Listen carefully. May 27th, May 28th, and May 29th are connected spiritually. One day brings separation, one day brings revelation, and one day brings divine movement. This is why the pressure around you has intensified recently. The enemy always reacts when heaven is preparing to release something major into a person's life. Have you noticed it? The strange dreams, the emotional heaviness, the sudden distance between you and certain people. The feeling that something big is approaching, but you cannot fully explain it. That is not coincidence. The spiritual realm often becomes loud right before God changes a season. And many people will ignore these signs because they are waiting for physical proof while heaven is already moving behind the scenes. But this message found you for a reason. You are not randomly guided here. In fact, I believe there are people watching right now who have been on the verge of giving up completely. You have been mentally tired, spiritually drained, confused by the silence. You kept asking God why everything became so difficult after you tried to grow, heal, and become a better person. And the answer is this: because transition periods are never comfortable. Before elevation comes separation. Before clarity comes confusion. Before breakthrough comes warfare. That is why these next 72 hours matter. Something hidden is about to be exposed. Something delayed is about to move, and someone who has been crying in silence is about to understand why God allowed certain people and situations to leave their life. Chosen one, do not ignore what heaven is trying to show you right now, because by the end of these 3 days, you may no longer see yourself, your situation, or your future the same way again. 2. The pain before the shift. God saw the battles you fought in silence. Chosen one, before God changes a season, He often allows a period that feels unbearably heavy. And many of you watching this did not just go through a difficult moment. You went through a complete emotional and spiritual breaking point. People saw you smiling, but they did not see the pressure crushing your mind at night. They did not see the silent tears. They did not see the anxiety. They did not see how many times you sat alone asking God questions you never said out loud to anyone else. Because the truth is, this last season exhausted you. You became tired of fighting battles that never seemed to end. Tired of loving people who betrayed you. Tired of helping others while secretly feeling empty yourself. Tired of praying for change while everything around you appeared delayed, blocked, or stagnant. Some of you lost relationships you thought would last forever. Others lost opportunities you prayed for repeatedly. Some of you watched people walk away without explanation. And what hurt the most was not just the loss itself. It was realizing how easily certain people abandoned you after everything you did for them. That pain changed you. It made you quieter, more guarded, more emotionally distant. And there were moments you started wondering if something was wrong with you, because every time you tried to move forward, another obstacle appeared. But chosen one, hear this clearly. The pressure was not proof that God abandoned you. The pressure was proof that transformation had already started. Because God will sometimes isolate a person before elevating them. He removes distractions. He breaks unhealthy attachments. He allows uncomfortable endings because the version of you connected to certain people could not carry the assignment heaven prepared for your future. And that process hurts, especially when you do not understand it while living through it. Some of you experienced financial hardship that nearly broke your confidence. You worked hard, stayed faithful, kept trying, yet somehow things remained unstable. Bills increased, stress increased, fear increased, and secretly you became tired of surviving instead of truly living. Others became spiritually exhausted. You kept praying but felt no answer. You kept waiting but saw no movement. You kept believing but felt emotionally drained. There were nights you asked God, "Why is everything so difficult for me?" And while you were asking that question, heaven was preparing you in ways you could not yet see, because some lessons cannot be learned in comfort. Discernment is developed in betrayal. Strength is developed in isolation. Wisdom is developed through disappointment. The pain forced you to see people differently. It forced you to stop depending on external validation. It forced you to grow spiritually even when you did not want to. And perhaps the hardest part of all was feeling misunderstood. People around you could not understand why you changed. They called you distant when in reality you were healing. They called you cold when in reality you were emotionally exhausted from carrying too much for too long. Chosen one. God saw every silent battle. He saw the nights you almost gave up. He saw the moments you felt mentally broken. He saw the tears nobody else noticed. And what felt like punishment was actually preparation. Because before these next 3 days could arrive, the old version of you had to break first. The weak mindset had to break. The unhealthy attachments had to break. The dependence on people had to break. And now, after everything you survived, heaven is preparing to reveal why you had to walk through that painful season in the first place. 3. Why these 3 days are different. Heaven uses 3 days to change a destiny. Chosen one. There is a reason these 3 specific days carry spiritual weight. Throughout biblical history, whenever God was preparing a transformation, a revelation, or a divine shift, there was often a period of 3 days connected to it. 3 days is not random. In the spiritual realm, it represents transition, completion, resurrection, a movement from one condition into another. It is the space between suffering and breakthrough, between confusion and clarity, between the old version of you and the person God is calling you to become. And this is why May 27th, May 28th, and May 29th are so important. These days symbolize a spiritual crossing point. Something old is ending, something hidden is being revealed, and something new is preparing to enter your life. Look closely at the patterns throughout Scripture. Jonah spent 3 days inside the great fish before being released into his true assignment. What looked like isolation was actually preparation. God separated him from distractions before redirecting his destiny. Esther fasted for 3 days before stepping into the moment that changed an entire nation. Before favor appeared publicly, there was first a private spiritual battle. And perhaps the most powerful example of all, Jesus remained in the tomb for 3 days before resurrection power was revealed. What looked like defeat became proof that God can transform darkness into divine victory. Chosen one. Heaven often works in hidden places before public transformation appears. And many of you are currently standing in that hidden place right now. That is why things have felt spiritually intense lately. Have you noticed how sensitive your spirit has become? The dreams that feel unusually real, the repeated numbers and confirmations, the sudden emotional waves that come out of nowhere, the feeling that something is changing even though you cannot physically explain it yet. This happens because the spiritual realm often sends signals before physical reality catches up. God begins shifting things internally before externally. And when breakthrough is near, spiritual warfare also increases. That is something many people fail to understand. The enemy attacks hardest when a person is closest to transformation. That is why confusion increases before clarity arrives. Fear increases before breakthrough appears. Emotional pressure increases before elevation begins. Some of you have recently felt mentally overwhelmed for no clear reason. You became tired suddenly, distracted suddenly, emotionally drained suddenly. That is not always coincidence. Sometimes it is spiritual resistance trying to stop you from recognizing the season you are entering. Because if the enemy can keep you discouraged, distracted, or emotionally broken, you may walk away right before the breakthrough arrives. But chosen one, these next 3 days are exposing something important. Your season is changing. The cycles that trapped you are weakening. The confusion that clouded your mind is breaking. The spiritual lessons from your painful season are preparing to make sense. And each of these 3 days carries a different assignment. One day will bring separation. One day will bring revelation. And one day will bring movement. This is why your spirit has been restless. Deep inside, part of you already feels that something major is approaching. Even if your physical circumstances have not changed yet, your soul can sense transition happening beneath the surface. And that feeling is not random. Heaven is preparing to move pieces around your life in a way you did not expect. But before breakthrough fully arrives, God often allows one final period of testing. One final moment where faith must survive uncertainty. One final moment where you must trust Him without visible proof. Because these 3 days are not just about external events. They are about spiritual awakening. They are about seeing differently, feeling differently, understanding differently. And by the end of this process, many of you will realize that what looked like delay was actually divine timing all along. 4. Day 1, May 27th. The separation begins. God is removing what cannot follow you. Chosen one, the first day of this spiritual transition begins with separation. And for many of you, this may be the hardest part to accept. Because May 27th carries the energy of exposure, cleansing, and divine disconnection. This is the day where God begins removing things that no longer align with your next season. And although it may feel painful emotionally, spiritually, it is necessary. Not everyone connected to you was assigned to go where God is taking you. Some people were only temporary. Some people were lessons. And some people were distractions disguised as support. This is why certain relationships have already started changing. Conversations became colder. Energy became strange. People who once acted close suddenly became distant. And deep down, your spirit already sensed something was wrong before your mind fully accepted it. Chosen one, hear this carefully. When God prepares elevation, He first exposes contamination, because you cannot carry toxic attachments into a higher season without damaging your peace, your discernment, and your purpose. That is why May 27th may feel emotionally heavy for many people watching this. You may suddenly feel disconnected from environments that once felt comfortable. You may realize certain people only valued you when you were struggling. You may even begin seeing hidden jealousy, manipulation, or dishonesty that was previously concealed from you. And while this revelation hurts, it is also protection. God is allowing masks to fall. The fake support systems are collapsing because they were never built on truth. Some people around you celebrated your weakness but secretly feared your growth. They liked the version of you that doubted yourself. They liked the version of you that needed their approval. But now something is changing spiritually. Your discernment is becoming stronger. Your spirit is becoming harder to manipulate. And heaven is no longer allowing certain connections to remain hidden around you. This is why emotional discomfort may increase during this period. Some of you may feel sudden sadness without fully understanding why. Others may experience conflict, distance, silence, or endings that seem unexpected. But chosen one, do not panic when separation begins. Not every ending is an attack. Some endings are answers to prayers you forgot you prayed. God is breaking unhealthy soul ties. God is removing distractions. God is clearing spiritual clutter from your life. Because the truth is, some people cannot accompany you into your next assignment. And one of the biggest mistakes people make during seasons of divine separation is trying to hold on to what God is removing. They chase people who already disconnected emotionally. They force conversations heaven already ended. They beg for access to places where their spirit no longer belongs. Do not do that. If God allows something to exit your life during this period, pay attention instead of chasing it. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Sometimes distance is protection. Sometimes silence is heaven, exposing what words never could. And yes, this process can feel lonely, because separation often happens before replacement arrives. There may be moments during May 27th where you feel emotionally isolated, misunderstood, or spiritually drained. You may wonder why God would remove familiar connections before introducing new ones. But this is part of spiritual cleansing. God cannot fill hands that refuse to release what is no longer healthy. And some of you have been carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry. You tried to save people who kept hurting you. You kept giving energy to people who kept draining you. You ignored red flags because you feared losing connection. But heaven is interrupting those cycles now. This day marks the beginning of spiritual detoxification. The old environment is breaking. The false connections are weakening. And hidden enemies are slowly being revealed through their behavior, their silence, or their sudden change toward you. Do not ignore these signs, because May 27th is not simply about people leaving. It is about God reclaiming your focus. The distractions must move first. The emotional chains must break first. The confusion must clear first. Only then can the next phase begin. And although separation feels painful in the moment, one day you will look back and realize God removed certain people because they were standing in the way of your peace, your healing, and your destiny. This is not abandonment. This is preparation. 5. Day 2. May 28th. Heaven sends confirmation. What confused you before will suddenly make sense. Chosen one, after separation comes revelation. And this is why May 28th carries a completely different spiritual atmosphere from the day before. While May 27th exposes and removes, May 28th begins uncovering truth. This is the day where confusion slowly starts turning into clarity. Things that once felt impossible to understand will suddenly begin connecting together in your spirit. The silence will start making sense. The delays will start making sense. Even certain painful endings will begin revealing their hidden purpose. Because when God separates you from distraction, He also increases your discernment. And many of you are about to experience unusual confirmations during this time. Some will receive a message they were not expecting. Others will have powerful dreams that feel incredibly real. Some will notice repeated signs appearing everywhere around them. And others will suddenly feel an inner knowing they cannot logically explain. Chosen one. This is heaven speaking through discernment. The spiritual realm often communicates quietly before physical manifestation appears loudly. That is why these next moments are important. You must pay attention to what your spirit is sensing instead of only focusing on external appearances, because May 28th is deeply connected to spiritual awakening. For many of you, this will be the day hidden truths begin surfacing. You may suddenly realize why certain people disappeared from your life. You may finally understand why doors remained closed despite all your efforts. You may even recognize that God was protecting you from situations that looked good on the surface, but would have damaged your future. And once this revelation arrives, your pain begins transforming into wisdom. That betrayal taught you discernment. That delay taught you patience. That isolation taught you spiritual strength. Nothing was wasted. Even the seasons that nearly broke you carried hidden lessons your future self will need. This is why May 28th may feel emotionally overwhelming for some viewers. Not because something bad is happening, but because spiritual clarity can be intense when it finally arrives. Imagine carrying confusion for months, then suddenly seeing the truth clearly. That realization changes everything. You begin recognizing who genuinely supported you and who secretly competed with you. You begin seeing how certain people only appeared during moments when they needed access to your energy, your kindness, or your light. And perhaps most importantly, you begin realizing that God's silence never meant abandonment. Chosen one, hear this carefully. God was quiet because He was working behind the scenes. While you were crying, He was protecting. While you were waiting, He was arranging. While you were confused, He was preparing the timing. And now, heaven is slowly pulling the curtain back so you can finally understand why everything unfolded the way it did. This is also why your intuition may become stronger during this period. You may suddenly feel uneasy around certain individuals. You may feel drawn towards solitude, prayer, or reflection. You may even feel your spirit resisting environments that once felt normal to you. Do not ignore that. Your discernment is sharpening because your spirit is becoming more aligned with God's direction. And one of the biggest signs that spiritual awakening is happening is this. You stop forcing things that no longer feel right. You stop chasing people who constantly drain you. You stop begging for doors God already closed. You stop settling for confusion disguised as connection, Because clarity changes your standards. And May 28th is a day of internal awakening before external movement fully appears. For some of you, heaven will confirm that you are on the right path even when physical evidence still seems limited. For others, this day will expose truths you were emotionally avoiding because part of you feared accepting them. But once truth arrives, healing can finally begin. That is why these confirmations matter. God does not reveal truth to destroy you. He reveals truth to free you. And during this spiritual transition, many of you are finally stepping out of emotional blindness and into spiritual understanding. The confusion is breaking. The fog is lifting. The hidden meaning behind your painful season is starting to reveal itself piece by piece. And by the end of this day, many chosen ones will realize something powerful. The delay was never denial. God was preparing you for a season your old mindset could not have handled before now. 6. Day 3. May 29th. The divine shift arrives. Heaven is moving what was delayed. Chosen one. After the separation and after the revelation comes the movement. This is why May 29th carries the atmosphere of breakthrough, transition, and divine release. Something that felt blocked begins shifting. Something that felt delayed begins moving. And many of you will feel this change internally before you fully see it externally. Because the greatest transformations always begin in the spirit first. May 29th is not just another day on the calendar. Spiritually, it represents crossing into a new season. The heaviness that followed you for so long begins lifting. The confusion loses power. The emotional chains that drained your energy begin breaking one by one. And for the first time in a long time, peace starts returning to your spirit. Chosen one, some of you have forgotten what peace even feels like. You became so used to survival mode that rest felt unnatural. You became so used to emotional warfare that calmness almost felt suspicious. Every day became another battle to endure, another burden to carry, another disappointment to survive. But heaven is saying enough. This is the day where movement begins. For some of you, this shift will appear through unexpected opportunities. A conversation opens a door. A connection suddenly changes. A financial pathway begins forming where there was previously stagnation. For others, the breakthrough will begin internally. Your confidence returns. Your motivation returns. Your spiritual fire returns. And honestly, that inner restoration is sometimes the greatest miracle of all. Because when a person has suffered emotionally for too long, they stop recognizing their own strength. They begin doubting their purpose. They begin questioning whether they still carry anything valuable inside them. But May 29th carries restoration energy. God is rebuilding what exhaustion tried to destroy. The version of you entering this next season will not think the same way anymore. You are becoming spiritually wiser, emotionally stronger, and far more discerning than before. The pain that once weakened you is now becoming part of your authority. That is why the enemy fought you so intensely, because your survival itself carries power. Chosen. 1. There are blessings attached to the version of you that refused to quit. There are doors connected to your endurance. There are opportunities connected to your obedience. There is restoration connected to your faithfulness during painful seasons. And now, heaven is preparing to release movement into areas that felt frozen for far too long. Some of you will notice sudden emotional clarity. Others will experience unexpected peace after months of anxiety. Some will receive confirmation that a long season of waiting is finally ending. And while the full manifestation may still unfold gradually, spiritually, the shift has already begun. This is important to understand. Do not expect every miracle to arrive instantly and dramatically. Sometimes God begins with internal transformation before external evidence appears. He restores your mind before restoring your environment. He rebuilds your spirit before rebuilding your circumstances, because sustainable breakthrough starts within. And many chosen ones are entering a season where they will finally stop shrinking themselves to fit environments that no longer match their calling. You are no longer the same person who entered this painful season. The suffering changed you. The waiting matured you. The isolation awakened you. And now, heaven is announcing your transition. This is the moment where you stop identifying yourself through pain and begin recognizing the strength God developed inside you through every difficult season you survived. So if things suddenly begin shifting around you, do not fear it. If new opportunities appear, do not sabotage them through doubt. If peace begins replacing chaos, do not return to emotional prisons God already freed you from. Because May 29th is not about going backward. It is about stepping forward into alignment. Chosen one, hear this prophetic declaration clearly. What delayed you will not control you anymore. What wounded you will not define you anymore. What tried to break you will not stop your destiny anymore. The season is changing. The heaviness is lifting. The door is opening. The spiritual transition has already started. And by the end of this shift, many of you will realize something powerful. God was never ignoring you. He was preparing the exact moment heaven would move everything into place at once. 7. The enemy knows your season changed. The attacks increased because your breakthrough is close. Chosen one. One of the clearest signs that your season is changing is this. The resistance suddenly becomes stronger. Right when peace starts returning, distractions appear. Right when clarity begins increasing, confusion tries to enter your mind again. Right when God starts moving things forward, spiritual attacks intensify. And many people misunderstand this season because they assume increased warfare means they are failing. But spiritually, the opposite is often true. The enemy reacts when destiny begins moving. That is why some of you have recently experienced unusual mental battles. Overthinking increased without warning. Fear appeared suddenly. Emotional exhaustion became heavier. You tried to focus, but your mind kept feeling attacked from different directions at once. That is not random. The enemy studies patterns. He recognizes when a person is close to spiritual elevation, and he tries to create enough discouragement, distraction, and emotional chaos to make them quit before the breakthrough fully manifests. Because if he cannot destroy your purpose, he will try to drain your energy. This is why discernment becomes critical during this season. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every invitation deserves your presence. Not every emotional reaction deserves your energy. Chosen one, protect your peace aggressively. There are people who carry confusion into every room they enter. There are environments designed to drain your spirit slowly without you noticing it immediately. And during periods of divine transition, even small distractions can delay your focus if you are not spiritually alert. This is why prayer matters now more than ever. Not religious performance, not empty routines, but genuine spiritual connection. Because prayer strengthens discernment. Prayer calms emotional noise. Prayer reconnects you to God when warfare tries to cloud your thinking. And many of you need to understand this clearly. The enemy is not attacking you because you are weak. He is attacking because you carry something valuable. There is purpose attached to your survival. There is influence attached to your healing. There is power attached to the version of you God is developing right now. That is why temptation may also increase during this period. Old habits may try to return. Old emotional cycles may try to pull you backward. Certain people may suddenly reappear once they sense your energy changing. Be careful. Not every return is restoration. Some things reappear only to test whether you truly healed. Some distractions come back to see whether you will abandon your growth for temporary comfort again. And this is where spiritual discipline becomes necessary. Discipline in what you allow into your mind. Discipline in what you entertain emotionally. Discipline in who receives access to your energy. Because breakthrough seasons require protection. You cannot pray for peace while constantly surrounding yourself with chaos. You cannot ask God for clarity while continuously ignoring discernment. And you cannot enter a higher season while remaining emotionally attached to lower environments. Chosen. 1. Darkness reacts when light begins rising. That is why fatigue increased. That is why discouragement intensified. That is why confusion tried to return right before things started shifting. But the attacks themselves are exposing something important. Your current level is ending. The enemy would not fight this hard over someone with no purpose. He would not waste energy trying to distract a person with no destiny attached to them. So, do not allow temporary warfare to convince you that God stopped moving. In fact, many times the greatest spiritual resistance happens immediately before breakthrough appears physically. This is the moment to stay alert. Stay prayerful. Stay disciplined. Stay emotionally guarded. Because heaven is not bringing you this far just for you to fall back into the same cycles that nearly destroyed you before. Your season changed, and deep in the spiritual realm, the enemy already knows it. Oito, the hidden blessing behind the delay. God hid you because the timing was not ready yet. Chosen. One of the hardest lessons to accept is that not every delay is punishment. Sometimes the delay is protection. And when you finally look back at everything you survived, you begin realizing that God was not ignoring you. He was preserving you. Because if certain doors had opened earlier, you would have entered them without the wisdom you now carry. If certain people had stayed in your life longer, they would have damaged your peace even deeper. And if some opportunities had arrived before your spirit matured, the pressure attached to them might have destroyed you instead of blessing you. But at the time, you could not see that. All you saw was waiting. Waiting while others moved ahead. Waiting while prayers seemed unanswered. Waiting while life felt painfully slow. And honestly, that season tested your faith. There were moments you wondered if God forgot about you completely. Moments where you questioned your purpose because nothing around you seemed to move the way you expected. You watched doors close repeatedly. Plans failed unexpectedly. Relationships collapsed without warning. And after enough disappointment, part of you became emotionally tired of hoping. But chosen one, what if those closed doors were actually protection mechanisms? What if God blocked certain paths because he could already see what was hidden ahead of them? Because many times, rejection is heaven redirecting you away from environments, people, and situations that would have delayed your destiny even further. And this is why isolation became necessary. God had to separate you long enough for your spirit to heal correctly. He had to pull you away from constant noise so discernment could develop. He had to allow loneliness for a season because some lessons can only grow in quiet places. That isolation transformed you. It forced you to confront yourself honestly. It forced you to heal wounds you kept ignoring. It forced you to stop depending on people for validation. And even though it hurt deeply, it also made you spiritually stronger. The betrayal taught you discernment. The heartbreak taught you boundaries. The disappointment taught you endurance. You are not the same person you used to be. The old version of you trusted too quickly. The old version ignored red flags. The old version kept sacrificing peace to keep others comfortable. But suffering changed your vision. While you once saw your painful season as evidence that life was working against you, heaven now wants you to understand something powerful. God was developing your character in hidden places because before elevation comes preparation. A tree develops its roots underground long before visible growth appears above the surface. And in the same way, God was strengthening your foundation before releasing the next level of your life. That is why you felt hidden, not rejected, not forgotten. Hidden. Hidden from environments that would have corrupted your growth. Hidden from people who only valued temporary access to you. Hidden until your spirit became mature enough to handle the assignment connected to your future. Chosen one. Timing matters. And many of you were delayed because heaven refused to release blessings into an immature season. You needed wisdom first. You needed healing first. You needed discernment first. Because the version of you watching this now carries knowledge you did not have before. You recognize manipulation faster. You value peace differently. You understand that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your energy anymore. That growth came through pain. And although you would never willingly choose those difficult seasons again, one day you will fully realize they produced a stronger, wiser, and spiritually awakened version of yourself. So do not resent the delay anymore. The delay protected you. The isolation prepared you. The closed doors redirected you. And the entire time, heaven was quietly shaping you for the season that is finally beginning to arrive now. 9. Prophetic declaration and spiritual activation. Chosen one. Your season is officially changing. Chosen one. This is the moment where everything shifts spiritually. After the pain, after the waiting, after the confusion and silent battles, heaven is now calling you into a new season. And I need you to hear these words not only with your ears, but with your spirit. You did not survive all of this by accident. There is a reason you are still standing after everything that tried to break you. There is a reason the attacks did not destroy your mind. There is a reason God kept pulling you forward, even during moments when you wanted to give up completely, because your life still carries purpose. And right now, I believe heaven is activating something inside many people watching this message. The fear is breaking. The heaviness is lifting. The old cycle is ending. Chosen one, this is your confirmation that the season of constant survival is coming to an end. God is restoring what emotional exhaustion tried to steal from you. Your peace is being restored. Your confidence is being restored. Your spiritual clarity is being restored. Everything you suffered through produced strength inside you that could not have been developed any other way. And now heaven is saying, you are ready. Ready for deeper discernment. Ready for healthier connections. Ready for opportunities your old mindset could not handle before. Ready for the next assignment attached to your destiny. So right now, do not focus on what was lost. Focus on what survived. Because despite betrayal, you survived. Despite isolation, you survived. Despite spiritual warfare, you survived. And survival itself became proof that God's hand remained on your life the entire time. Chosen one, I want you to receive this prophetic declaration over your spirit. The delay is breaking. The confusion is breaking. The emotional chains are breaking. Every spirit of fear, stagnation, discouragement, and exhaustion that followed you through the last season is losing power now. You are entering divine alignment. The wrong people are being removed. The right doors are beginning to open. The clarity you prayed for is arriving, and the peace you almost lost is returning stronger than before. This is not the end of your story. This is the transition into the version of yourself heaven was preparing all along. And even if you cannot fully see every change yet, spiritually, the movement has already started. Your mindset is changing. Your discernment is changing. Your energy is changing. You are no longer emotionally available for confusion, manipulation, and constant spiritual draining. God is teaching you to protect your peace, protect your purpose, and protect your spirit. So, do not shrink yourself anymore. Do not apologize for growing. Do not apologize for setting boundaries. Do not apologize for choosing peace over chaos, because the season ahead requires a stronger version of you. Chosen one, pray differently now. Expect differently now. See yourself differently now, because heaven never brought you this far just to abandon you at the edge of breakthrough. Aitus. And if this message is speaking directly to your spirit, take a moment and declare it boldly. I survived for a reason. My season is changing. I receive divine alignment. I will not return to what God delivered me from, because these next days are not ordinary. They are the beginning of a spiritual shift that will change how you see yourself, your purpose, and your future forever. These 3 days will not leave you the same. Chosen one. If you have listened to this message until this moment, understand something very clearly. You were meant to hear this, because these past 3 days were never just dates on a calendar. Spiritually, they represented a process heaven needed you to experience before the next chapter of your life could begin. May 27th brought separation. God started removing what no longer belonged in your future. May 28th brought revelation. The confusion began lifting and hidden truths started coming into the light. And May 29th brought movement. The spiritual shift finally began opening the door into a new season. This was not punishment. It was preparation. Every battle you survived carried a purpose. Every delay taught you something. Every painful ending was slowly pushing you toward the version of yourself heaven intended you to become all along. And now, chosen one, the most important thing you can do is remain spiritually alert. Protect your peace. Protect your discernment. Protect your connection with God. Because when heaven begins shifting a person into a higher season, distractions always try to appear at the same time. Do not allow temporary emotions, fear, or old cycles to pull you backward after everything you fought to survive. You have come too far to return to confusion. The old version of you is ending. The fearful version is ending. The emotionally exhausted version is ending. And a stronger, wiser, spiritually awakened version of you is finally beginning to rise. So, when things start changing around you, do not panic. When certain people disappear, let them go. When unexpected doors open, walk through them with faith. When peace starts replacing chaos, do not sabotage it by returning to old emotional prisons. Because heaven is not just changing your circumstances. Heaven is changing you. And one day, you will look back at these 3 days and realize they marked the moment everything quietly began shifting in your favor. Chosen one, this message found you for a reason. And if you truly feel this word connected with your spirit, I want you to do 2 things right now. First, comment below, "My season is changing." And second, subscribe and share this message with another chosen one who needs confirmation that God has not forgotten them. Because somebody watching this tonight was on the verge of giving up completely, and this message may be the reminder that heaven is still fighting for them. Remember this: the battle did not destroy you, the delay did not stop you, and the darkness did not defeat you. You are still here because your purpose is still alive, and these next days may become the beginning of a transformation you will never forget.